From the man who would go on to give us Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time comes the jaunty, wondrous, and criminally overlooked puzzle platformer Marvelous Another Treasure Island. Developed by Nintendo themselves and released in 1996 on the Super Famicom, this tropical treasure extravaganza unfortunately never pulled anchor to set sail elsewhere but Japan. Which is quite a cruel fate for a game that, in many ways, is a spiritual successor to the company's monumental Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. In Marvelous, our story revolves around an island summer camp that our three heroes are attending, where a mythical treasure famously known as Marvelous is stowed away. The tale goes that it once belonged to the notorious pirate, Captain Maverick, and is said to be nearly impossible to retrieve, yet many have tried. And as our young and fearless trio attempt to enjoy their camp, a rogue group of pirates have come looking for the goods which have been bestowed upon our hapless team. Marvelous is basically a puzzle platformer in the guise of an RPG, as you'll cross paths with many tricks, traps, and puzzles athwart multiple islands on your journey to not only retrieve your kidnapped teacher, but the pieces of the treasure. Our courageous troop of heroes is made up of Dion, who is fast and high-spirited, Max, who is big and strong, and in the middle is the tall and crafty Jack. Each of the three boys present key roles in every situation, as their different attributes come into play, but so do their items. Each character will amass a small stockpile of tools to help out in various circumstances, which will lead you to the game's main mechanic of switching between the three to circumvent their many conundrums. This is done by cycling through the boys with R. Get it? Because, the game has pirates in it. Once a leader is selected, you can move them solo to wherever or whatever you need them to do, or you can regroup the party by pressing Y to blow your whistle. However, this does lead to some annoying traits like needing to regroup after most item usage, or unsuccessfully regrouping before a transition, then having to go back and get your severed members, who you will need as teamwork is just as important, since many tasks require the trio's combined strength. If this all looks and seems familiar, it's no coincidence, as Marvelous uses the same engine as A Link to the Past. Between the overworld, similar player animations, and even identical items like the speed boots and hammer, it becomes apparent pretty quickly. But Marvelous is more than just a copycat Hyrulean tale, as the game does spice things up with numerous point-and-click sections found throughout that you'll need to indulge in to gain extra info, further investigate foreign objects or clues, and even solve riddles. The puzzles that account for the bulk of your adventure are just as one would want. At the start, most are sufficiently spelled out and simple, but slowly make way for more components, leading to many well-crafted head-scratchers that will leave you shouting, "Aha!" when you finally figure them out. But that's not to say a few didn't leave me thumbing through a game fact to find the elusive solution, or leave me annoyed at the many back and forths or contrived steps. Speaking of the missions, your hardy troop will encounter a wide variety of creative, amusing, and obtuse tasks. From straightforward gigs like fishing for dinner, taking a detour to help your party further explore a cave, or messing with a monkey until it runs off, to bigger ploys such as uprooting some evil vegetation in the desert, betting and bartering with the esoteric creatures in Lilliput Forest, or getting the antidote to rid the jungle village of the thing-like plant creatures.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Or how about getting a bunch of shy penguins to mate so you can use one to find and dig new water wells? Sound weird? Well, that's not even the only sex-related thing in the game. At one point, you have to help a gorilla get together with a female gorilla who Nintendo didn't even think twice about making thick.
You gonna make me act up. You gonna make me do something I'm gonna regret.
As I'm sure you can tell from that, in true Nintendo fashion, Marvelous is rife with character. From each of the three boys displaying various idle animations and traits, to goofy Earthbound-esque exchanges and happenings like creating a mouse bridge, or using your tiny princess helper to tickle a cow so it'll sneeze itself out of your way, the game will undoubtedly leave you grinning from ear to ear. My personal favorite moment happens after you catch the frog, as your troop triumphantly holds it above their heads as you get this wonderful text box. Unfortunately, not everything in Marvelous is up to par. For a game made on an engine known for its legendary combat, I'm sad to say the scraps you'll get into on your treasure hunt are less than stellar. It's kind of hard to explain, but when you're not swinging the Master Sword, the bouts are rather clunky, especially at a close range or at an angle. Thankfully, combat is few and far between. Much like the combat, the music is also a bit of a letdown. The songs, while appropriate, tend to be rather short, generic, and after a few loops, kind of annoying. Although the 16-bit ocean ambience found throughout is extremely satisfying and relaxing, so at least there's that. From trekking through dark caves and sun-drenched coastlines, venturing deep into the gigantism-plagued forest of Lilliput, or going back in time to reinvigorate a dried-up desert island, you are sure to have a blast figuring your way through puzzle after puzzle on your voyage through Marvelous. Considering it's a Nintendo first-party title, it should come as no surprise that it gets a recommendation, especially to those of you who fancy A Link to the Past, as this will no doubt deliver on a familiar experience, but with a bigger focus on puzzles. That being said, those of you who crave combat will still be treated to a small handful of encounters that bring forth the creative scruffles the series is known for. However, the question still remains, why did this game never leave Japan? According to several sources, Nintendo of America, not so surprisingly, had shifted their focus to the N64 and wasn't interested in bringing over many new SNES titles at the time of Marvelous's release in October of '96. But what is a slightly more telling and sadder reasoning was the extra deterrent due in part to the poor sales of Earthbound. Thankfully, a fan translation was released a few years back to remedy this 16-bit blueballing. Because of this, reproductions are typically easy to find at a decent price, but import enthusiasts do expect to pay a bit more for a gorgeous boxed copy. As for the game's two Satellaview spin-offs and Zelda-themed spiritual sequel, those we'll have to save for another day. So, if you're looking for a good alternative to A Link to the Past or The Lost Vikings, look no further. As the title suggests, this game is simply marvelous. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this episode, consider checking out these other videos right here, or even subscribing. Also, if you'd like to throw me a couple of bucks, you can support the show on Patreon.